What is better, being a mortgage loan officer or a real estate agent? From someone who is both. That's right. My name is Andrea Wilson, and I'm dual licensed as a real estate broker and a mortgage loan officer. And for the last 20 years, I've had my real estate agent license. And for the last 11 years, I've been a real estate broker and owner of a real estate company. And for the last couple years, I've been operating as a mortgage loan officer. To give a little context or backstory on there, prior to real estate, I was a corporate accountant. So I always worked around money. So the mortgage piece of it actually kind of makes sense for me as I look back on it. I initially got my real estate license because I wanted to get started investing in real estate, and I wanted access to the MLS to be able to look for properties for myself and my husband for us to invest in. And then was like, oh, I kind of like the business and maybe I'll start selling. And then several years later, ended up opening a real estate brokerage. Now, it doesn't matter if you're a mortgage loan officer or a real estate agent, it's a sales position on both sides. And with sales position, you are having to find your own business in a lot of cases. You have to cultivate those relationships. It is a people-heavy business. So I would say, number one, you have to like working with people. If you're a person that more so likes to work behind the scenes, then neither business is probably going to be for you because it's heavy with working on and working with people on a day-to-day basis. The second thing, on the real estate agent side, I would say that on the agent side, you're more out networking and more present. So if you look on social media, you tend to see more real estate agents kind of present, kind of being out front, whereas a mortgage loan officer is working from the back end of things. The other side to it is, as a real estate agent, you spend a lot more time in your car, out in the field, around and about the city, right? It is more of the feel-good part of the business. You're dealing with happy buyers, sellers, and so you get that feel-good experience and excitement of buying a home. On the mortgage side of things, you may not necessarily get that excitement because people tend to be a little bit more nervous when it comes to the money aspect and talking about money and not necessarily understanding how it all works, where the money comes from, where the money is going, how the financing piece of it. On the real estate side of things, as a real estate agent, you are 100% commission based. Sometimes people join teams, and that team will allow you or pay out a base salary and you have commission, but for the most part, it's 100% commission. You have to go out, find opportunities. A lot of times agents are paying for leads, but you have to go out and find those opportunities on your own, develop those relationships, and it's kind of like no days off type of business, because you're always searching and on the hunt for that next client. Although you work for a real estate brokerage, you are a 1099 worker. You receive a 1099 at the end of the year, and you have a lot more fees, I would say, on the real estate agent side. Most agents are part of the National Association of Realtors, local chapter. You have to pay those annual dues that could be somewhere around, on average, between $800 to $1,000 a month. You have MLS fees to access the MLS, which could be another $300 to $600 or more a year. You have technology fees oftentimes, and often you have monthly office fees, all that you have to pay, even if you do not close on a sale of a home. As a mortgage loan officer, you have a couple different options. You could work for a bank like a Key Bank, PNC Bank, Chase Bank as an employee. Going that method, the banks typically provide you with a lot of leads for you to access, call on to make your money. In those roles, you get paid sometimes as a salary and then with the sales commission on top of that. There's other banks where you can work at that's not your traditional bank, like like a banking depository. There's other banks where they just do mortgages. You're still an employee of the bank. You receive a W-2 at the end of the year. You have health benefits. For me, that was the biggest piece to being on the mortgage side versus being on the real estate agent side of the transaction, is having access to health insurance. You can absolutely buy health insurance on your own, but policies under a company or organization tends to save you a lot of money by being able to do so because it's such a larger organization. The other thing working on the mortgage side of it is you develop most of your relationships with real estate agents and sometimes with the consumer, but a lot of mortgage loan officers have built their business by working and developing relationships direct with the real estate agent versus direct to the borrower or the buyer in the transaction. Now, we're starting to see a shift in that market where more mortgage loan officers are looking to go direct to the client. But the old school method is that mortgage loan officers are developing and cultivating relationship with real estate agents. And so that is going to be a big difference. Working as a mortgage loan officer direct to a real estate agent that gets the business, understands the flow of the business versus a buyer who doesn't know anything and you're trying to teach them about the business. As a mortgage loan officer, you're typically working out of your office. Many times you don't even meet the client. You do lots of maybe Zoom calls or over the telephone calls. And in some cases, clients do come into the office to drop off paperwork or maybe even attending a closing in there. But for the most part, the real estate agent is going to be the one that develops a more personal relationship with that client versus the money person on the back end of this is just making sure that the finances are in place to get you to the closing table. Personally, when you think about which one is better, I think it's going to all depend on your personal style and personality. On the lending side, you don't have all of the fees unless maybe you're a mortgage broker. And so you kind of work a little more independently and have more individual fees. But if you're working under a bank, you have less fees. You may have your annual renewals for your license, but you don't typically have as many fees. When you think about which route should you go, you really just have to figure out what's your personality like. Who do you like to deal with? At one point in time, with being in this industry for so long, I used to love going out and seeing all of the homes, touring, going in and out. But after 20 years of being in the business, on that side of the business, it's like, you seen one house, you've seen them all. Sometimes you see some uniqueness and you're like, oh, wow, that was really nice. But going in and out of the home, seeing a bunch of homes throughout the day is not as exciting. And I actually enjoy being on the mortgage side. As being a real estate agent, you really have to be local to your market. You have to be there. You have to show up for your clients, to show the houses, meet with the sellers. On the mortgage side of the business, you can essentially live anywhere. Like I said, most buyer clients, they don't need to come and see you. You can do everything over the telephone and over the internet. that you could literally be on a beach somewhere and writing up a pre-approval, or dealing with a client and not having to physically be in that state or in that city. That's going to be another big one for me. If you're a person that likes to travel and go out of town and be away from your hometown city, on the mortgage side, that can be a lot more beneficial to you because you don't have to worry about, oh, I got to show these clients a house. And I recall it never fails on being a real estate agent. It's like everything's quiet, cool, everything's under control. And the minute I would plan a vacation and it's time to leave, that one buyer who I've been working with for months, 6 months, finally decides that they want to pull a trigger on a particular house right in the middle of you going out of town. I don't know what it is. If you're a real estate agent and you're watching this and you want a deal, just plan the trip. And then a client will absolutely come. And so working on the mortgage side, if that happens, it's not a big deal because as long as I have my cell phone and my laptop, I can still handle everything that I need to do. And clients wouldn't even necessarily know that you were even out of town. Again, less fees being on the mortgage side of the business, more direct, more, not so much of the feeling with the buyer client of the emotional roller coaster that I feel that agents see on that side. Today, I want this house. No, I don't want this house. Yeah, I want this house. Oh, I think I don't want this house. We don't see that much. On the mortgage side, it's more cut and dry. Obviously, we're going to educate the client and let them know and understand the process. But the numbers become the numbers, right? And your credit is your credit. And so either we're going to wait and we're going to improve credit, or we're ready today and this is what you can get approved for. And there's not much deviation around that. Versus when you working on the realtor side of things, they say, oh, I only want a 4-bedroom and a finished basement, to no, I don't want that. Or now I want to move across town. So the inconsistency. Yeah, I would say overall, as being a dual agent, you have to be very organized. You have to be very organized in your business if you're operating as a dual agent. Typically, I am not the real estate agent and the mortgage loan officer on the same transaction. I'm usually one or the other, and most times I'm the mortgage loan officer and there's an agent that is handling the client. Being a dual licensed agent allows me to make additional income opportunities. And so I don't just have to rely on selling the house and being the real estate agent, whereas I can do the loans and I can touch and work with other agents to be able to do so. I definitely think that at a certain point in time, you will tend to kind of lean heavier on one side than the other once you figure out what you like more. And so it may be just a matter of kind of getting into the business and figuring out what route you like to go. But on both sides, they are both a people-oriented business. It is a sales role. You eat what you kill. So it's not an easy job on either side of it, of just finding clientele. Just the main difference, when you work as a mortgage loan officer, typically, especially if you're working at a bank, then they provide you leads, so you don't have to find the business. It's not as hard. Versus as a real estate agent, you're constantly looking for your next client, building relationships, and finding those deals. So thank you for joining in with me. For more information about being a dual agent or about the lending side or real estate side, make sure you follow for more. Have a good day, guys.